Wells only and his guests are not responsible for any losses you may accrue for having weak hands. Where the haters at? Y'all bitches still ain't showed up. And now, right, we got Hex, flawless uptime. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart.
This is Wales only. Glad you guys can make it out. I'm making some claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's simple mathematics. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. Shit, motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all's deep. Everybody. My God. Ex-Asians, bro. Everybody. Australians, man. Everybody gets me. Yo, when is it told you? Dollar told you. Everybody done told you. It's crazy. What's going on, fam? Happy Tuesday to y'all. Hope everybody's having an outstanding day, evening, whatever it may be. Figure we just go over some basics today, because it's important that you understand like what's going on. Being in cryptocurrency just is not going to be enough. Because if you don't understand why it exists and what you need to be cognizant of, you're just going to fall into another trap. Because you're going to think you have the ability to assess something that you don't know how to assess. And that's the problem. People think that they're assessing shit correctly out here when they don't even know what the problem is. So how do we fix that? Well, there's no we in that one, because that's a self-educated process. Only thing that we could do is share the information and ensure, to the best of our ability, that the person to our left or right is aware of what's going on. Like, that's literally all we can do. Whatever they decide to do with the information is on them. You know, there's a reason people work their entire lives for no reason. I don't know why that's lost on people. I don't know why people pretend that they don't see that. But all of that precipitates all these other symptoms, right? And all these other symptoms are really just a function of that, the money problem. But it goes even further, because the fact that we consider what we use to be money is the problem. We don't know that it's not money. We have to learn what money is first. And in general, nobody knows what money is, no matter how many times you tell them to look up the definition, because it's in there. It exists, right? People are just, I don't know. It's interesting, this thing of crypto, because ultimately we are all gonna have to make our individual decisions. And those of us that are here in this quote unquote crypto thing now uh, have somewhat of a head start, but a lot of people really don't know what they're doing here. They don't understand what crypto is, and they're just playing along. And those are going to be the people that get trapped in CBDCs, plain and simple. Because once people are just under these presumptions on so many things that they just don't understand, don't know, don't have the information readily available, and they sure as hell don't seek it out because it's out there. It's not like it's hidden, because even I know this information, and this is information that's old. So it's information that is public, at least 15 years ago. So why don't you know it? Why don't you do your damnedest to understand what's going on? Why are you looking to set yourself up for failure? And not just yourself, ultimately your family, because nobody else is aware of anything. Nobody else cares to be. So if you're here for some type of reason. But in reality, are you are you exercising your time accordingly? Like, that's a question you got to really ask yourself. Tweeting all day ain't really what I'm talking about. Like, are you knowledgeable in why you are doing this crypto thing? Do you even understand the problems that exist that precipitated this crypto thing? This crypto thing is a little band-aid on a major problem, because it's not getting better. It hasn't gotten better since crypto came into existence in its current form, thus necessitating the need for real crypto even further. And all that's happened is that now we have this major chasm that exists in crypto, where if you really don't know, you're fucked. There is no in between. And the sad thing about it is that it always takes time for it to materialize, because when it's a good trap, you're never going to see it coming. That's the point of a trap. So while you find yourself playing with the give me a second. Oh, excuse me, 9,607 coins on Pulse Chain, while you're out there fucking around with that, be sure to understand that you need to remain focused. Because if not, you're liable to get sidetracked by one of the many thousands of the liquid coins that are out there. I mean, wow, hold on. See, I think they're done now. Um, this is a funny comment. Yeah, it's interesting because I have to agree. I have to agree. As crazy as that sounds. I try to promote real trading if people are gonna dabble in trying to make money, because it's much more beneficial to you, the end user, much more efficient for your capital, and all of that. But people don't really want what they want. They want the easy way out, and that's just what they're not finding. And yeah, this is exactly why crypto exists. Some guys were smart enough to come up with whatever, but it's become what it's not supposed to be. Because if you look at my thumbnail, it clearly defines what cryptocurrency is supposed to be, and that's not what we have. In many instances, that is the opposite of what we have. But yet they call it crypto, and plenty of people run around believing that it is crypto. And, it's simply not. I don't give a fucking rat's ass what anybody says. Because if there is an intermediary, then what are we doing? The same thing we've been doing. So has there been any change in the way things are structured and how they work? Well, that'd be a resounding no. Therefore, is it really crypto? The answer is no. Take your gains, but understand that you got to take your gains because they're not going to be there. And that's the difference between real and fake crypto. You have to rely on something, and that's why it's fake. You have to learn that lesson by somebody telling it to you and you analyzing the landscape, or the hard way. That's pretty much how that cookie crumbles. So when we look at the point in time when cryptocurrency came to be, it was, let's see here, coin creation. Uh-huh. Come on. Wikipedia states. Let's see what the rulers allow to be said about it. Let's share the screen. Let me not be rude. All right, so I'm right here under creation. On the 18th of August 2008, the domain name bitcoin.org was registered. Later that year, on October 31st, a link to a paper authored by a so-called Satoshi Nakamoto titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, with a link down below for those that haven't read it. You should. Was posted to a cryptography mailing list. This paper detailed methods, of using a peer-to-peer network to generate what was described as a system of electronic transactions without relying on trust. On 3rd January 2009, the Bitcoin network came into existence, with Satoshi Nakamoto mining the Genesis block of Bitcoin, block number 0, which had a reward of 50 Bitcoins. And embedded in the Genesis block was the text, "The Times, 3 January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." The text refers to a headline in the Times published on the 3rd of January 2009. The Times is a British daily national newspaper based in London, for those that are not familiar. This note has been interpreted as both a timestamp on the Genesis date and a derisive comment on the instability caused by fractional reserve banking. Now, one thing I have to highlight is that this line is telling, because a lot of people pretend like this is still what's actually operational. The first open source Bitcoin client was released on such and such date as source Forge. Now, I don't know if people are aware, but there's been many changes to Bitcoin since its launch, right? And it's not what it was originally intended to be. Now it's basically a boomer coin. The only people you see talking about it are people on Wall Street that are boomers and think that they found this new gold mine or whatever. It's funny because gold is like 10x or 20x cheaper. and they're salivating over something that they don't even understand. So, you know, you got to understand that that's what's happening. There's a huge lapse in logic there. That makes zero sense. This is just another trap. And people are definitely going to fall for it because that's just how it works. Because everybody isn't seeking the truthful information. They're just seeking what makes them feel good. And hey, more power to you. But that shit does not pay the bills. So I am not talking about that ever. And that's something you got to understand. Have no interest in stroking my ego. Because that shit doesn't pay. It really doesn't. So if this Bitcoin thing is ever to make any headway in a serious fashion, people have to actually understand the problem that's at hand. Thanks, X Monkey. Appreciate the super chat and the comment. And your streams are fire lately, Wales. Folks, click the likes or else Wales hacks your wallet. That was funny. The monetary problem it stems from everything else. The lack of self-respect, the lack of comprehension of the system that we're supposed to be living under, the failure to grasp the breaches of contract, the failure to care. I mean, this is where I've just put self-respect in that bucket. I mean, I just don't understand why you expect other people to respect you when you don't respect yourself. Like, we just went through Rona. There is no going back from that. So pretending is no longer an option. People like me are not giving a fuck. And we're letting you know. Because we're not going to have a repeat of that. I mean, you can kill yourself if you want. Don't get it twisted. We're not going to stop you because you're just not in the way any further. But we're not repeating Rona. Like that whole protocol and all of that, never going down again. That's not happening 2 times. So people like you no longer matter. So you got to literally pick, do you want to use your brain or not? Because that is the future for everyone. And those that choose to not use their brain are just going to end up in the side of history with the Rona participants. Guaranteed, or your money back. Just like I guaranteed you with them that that's what was going to happen. And I wasn't wrong. So you can either analyze the situation yourself and see how obvious it is, because I'm not some clairvoyant. This shit is not rocket science. It's right there in your face. Nothing is hidden. Or you can keep pretending. Choice is yours. At the end of the day, the world is what it's going to be. And no matter how smart you think you are, if you don't actually understand the tricks that are being played on you, you're not going to avoid any traps. There is a trap for everyone. Guaranteed of your money back. I already fell for mine. That's why I understand what's going on. So I already escaped. In fact, what I'm personally doing is insane at this point in time. And I'm not at liberty to disclose what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is insane. Because I understand what's going on. And I know what I have to do. But everybody else, you got to play the role that you were given to play. But at the end of the day, everybody's living through this point in time for a reason. You cannot avoid the pain that's going to come. Just like you cannot avoid the prices at the stores. Everybody's going to feel it. Because everybody is a fabric of what's happening. It would be nice if we could fabricate all collectively lower prices just mentally, right? It would be nice if we could really do that. But unfortunately, that is just not how things work. And excuse me, because I am engaged. So If you're not aware or you don't know and you need further instruction, please use the internet accordingly. Because as I discussed last night, that is the purpose of the internet. I explained what the internet was in very succinct form. Let me rehash. The internet is a file repository. Literally, that is all it is. Files are stored all over the world, all over the realm, all over the internet, because it's just a network. So, in order for you to access those files, you have to be able to tap into that local network. That's why you have a local access network number. Remember that landline? So, all of this stuff is stuff you already understand if you just put in a couple of minutes of effort. Because if I can figure it out, anybody can. I am not smart. Trust me. I'm not smart. I know all this stuff because I'm stupid. And this is what you have to understand. This is why I know exactly what people are doing, thinking, etc. Because I already did it. All the mistakes people are making, I already made them. All the incorrect choices people make, I already made them. That's how I can speak this language that people pretend not to understand, even though it's English. Woo! I mean, you guys got to understand, like, how the real world works. People that know don't have to shout from the rooftops constantly that they know. I elaborate that I know exactly what's going on by just doing these freestyle endless streams. I don't ever prepare for anything. This is all off the top. So I know what I'm talking about. I don't need to take notes or come up with a note card. Like, let me make sure I'm organized and make sure I don't miss anything and blah, blah, blah. I might miss a topic I want to discuss. Sure. But I'm not missing anything on the content that's being delivered. And that's the point. You got to understand when somebody is not fucking around. And this is one of those times. I mean, look at what's happening at the borders. No matter where you look, north or south, people are coming in droves. And not only are they coming in, they're being allowed in, they're being in process, they're being given money, and they're being sent to whatever city they want or whatever city they got to go to. Because either way, they don't belong here, so I don't give a rat's ass how you look at it. Question you should be asking is, why aren't they being turned around? And why are they being let in? And why do they have more money than me? Because they definitely got more money than you. They have no debt in America, and they flush with cash. And I mean thousands of dollars, 5,000 and up, these people are getting, in case you did not know. And you don't got to take my word for it. If I know it, it's public information. Question is, why don't you know it? Why do you think it's okay to not know? You think you got something better to do than defend your home? But that's what you're about to be doing in a major way. If you like, take a look at Massachusetts, Arizona, Texas. There's a whole lot of fun stuff going on in those specific states. New Mexico, Southern California. Look into it. Because at the end of the day, all this stuff is coming to your door. You cannot avoid it. And this is what, just like you can't avoid the high prices at the store, you cannot avoid any of this other shit I'm talking about. It's all connected, all related. It is not separate. It is all linked. So while it sounds like political talk, it's not. This is what's going on. This is what's happening in real time. So the question is, are you prepared? Are you getting prepared? Because these dudes are fortified. They're flush with cash. They got free reigns to operate for now until further notice. So you have to be ready. Because you don't know what's coming to you, but something's coming. That I guarantee you. I know what a war looks like. I've been a part of a few. And this is war. It's a nice slow invasion that you, the unsuspecting inhabitant, don't even recognize is happening. You don't even give a fuck. It's comedy, man. It's straight comedy. Because at the end of the day, all of this is exactly why Bitcoin exists. Let's say Bitcoin is a psyop. There's a high probability that it is, because it is no longer a network that's decentralized and free for us to use. It's not. So let's say that it's a psyop. Let's just have this thought experiment here. If Bitcoin is not a psyop, and let's say it is, but if it's not, with the assumption that it is, what's the guarantee that anytime you touch a Bitcoin, something isn't being dropped in your wallet? You don't really know. Some type of tracing element via a hash, because something on your phone touched that network or your computer. Some tracing element. There's a lot of weird stuff that could be done with metadata. I mean, do you even know what metadata is? We should have started there. So there's little things like this that if you're going to be playing these games in the 21st century, because that's, the century we live in, you got to really understand what is going on. You got to understand what you can and cannot do. And you have to understand that you can't wait for anybody to tell you, because nobody is going to. Because they got to protect themselves, or they just don't want you to know. And that's a reality. How do you rectify something that you don't know is messed up? I will always harp on that, because that's what's true. We know something's wrong, but we won't take the time to figure out what. For a long time, I knew something was wrong. And until I got up off my ass and decided to join one of these 3-letter agencies, I never confirmed that something was off. That's when I for fucking sure knew. Because when you go to these interviews, you got to know your history. They're not hearing that, oh, I'll have to do the research and get back to you. They're not hearing that shit. You got to know. So I was doing my research. And that's where the problems came into play. And the thing is like, it's documented, man. It's not like it's the shit I'm talking about is not off a YouTube clip alone. Like, you got to verify the information you come across. You guys got to understand this. So just because it's on YouTube don't mean nothing. This is documented. All of this information is documented. So why are we so comfortable letting the Nazis who won continue to win? I don't understand. I mean, they sent people to die in Vietnam. They sent people to die in Grenada. They sent people to die all over the world. And we continue to act like that's something we can't stop, when we stop all number of things. We don't stop the important things. I don't understand. I don't. So that logic there leads me to believe that in this near-term future that we're about to go through, here are going to be your options. And this is, it doesn't matter. It's all about this Bitcoin ETF bullshit. One thing you guys got to understand is what is being passed and what is going to be bought based on what is being passed. So just because there's an ETF being approved doesn't mean anything, because if it's not buying the spot coin and an actual coin, not a fraction of it, it's just going to be dumbasses buying the coin. And people that are seeing the opportunity to selling the coin. That's literally what you can expect from that. So I recommend, for those of you that want to pretend, that you learn how to read before you take any positions predicated on that nonsense. Because now you're entering my world. And if you don't know how to read, you will fail over here. This ain't crypto where you might get lucky. You got to read. So if you don't know what's being passed and you buy a pump, you might eat that. Because they're not passing anything that's spot related. They'll call it that. But like I said, you better read. Because that is where the money's at. It's not anything else. Anyway, let's look at what these rates are doing. Yep. Still trending lower. All right. So let me do some TA for you guys here. Let me shut all this stuff. Alright. So the other day, I was explaining how these negative divergences could peter out and the trend could continue. Because it's obvious that there's a negative divergence here. But if fundamentals really take hold, and what I mean by fundamentals is geopolitical events, they drive capital into the rate sector, irrespective of what's happening on the front end of the curve, right? Because you guys, if we're looking at this right-hand side of my screen, I have the 30-year, 20-year, all the way down to the Fed funds rate. 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 6, 1 year, 2 year, 5, 10, and so on. So what you guys will notice is that the 1 month, 2 month, they're up, right? And then not only are they up, they're higher than the Fed funds rate. So this is like a fire alarm's being rung, basically. 2 year up, right? And of course, not higher than the Fed funds, but it's up. And the 2 year is the thing that really drives policy expectations. That's what I want you guys to understand. That's the main reason I highlight that specific interest rate year. It's not for any other reason. So back to the price action. If price stays within this support range here, 124, that's probably going to necessitate lower yields, right? And if we pull up the 10-year, that's what we're going to see. This is the yield. I'm just going to draw out the tech. That's all. And it's basically the same stuff. Why would it be any different? So this is the 10-year yield, and this is the 30-year bond. And the 30-year bond is actually close to the 10-year yield, and it's difficult to explain, but it's just the way the math works out, it turns out. But anyways, that's the reason I'm tracking them like that. The 5 year is closer to the 10. This so-called 10-year is actually 7. And that's so true that they even made an actual 10-year called the Ultra 10-year. I guess people trade it. I don't really trade it. But people do. But I don't care for it. So I just came in the game trading these two. So I'm good with those two. It's fine. I mean, literally, what I mean is there's no mathematical benefit to adding that to the freaking mix. It's not really necessary. So I don't. But anyways, this is like the hard thing about these determinants, right? I was gonna say rates, but it's really these determinants because there's gonna be points in time where the dollar, which is at almost new lows right now, I wonder if it's seeing new lows a day. Let's look at what the candle chart looks like. I mean, we're right at the lows of the most recent lows. We're a couple ticks off. Yep, 3 ticks off or 6 ticks off. Let's go to a daily perspective on the chart. I mean, yeah, we're about to. Looks like we are gonna head lower to that. Let me straighten this line out. 100 half mark. And again, the reason I'm harping on this stuff, guys, is because this even does affect crypto somewhat to some degree. I know I never look at this stuff, but let me just look at what these charts look like. Oof. Oof. See? Okay. So what's the hypothesis here? The hypothesis here is crypto is very risky. The people that are buying this shit right now are risk averse. So when they see an opportunity to exit, they will exit. Right. But the thing you guys got to understand is that it takes time for these flows to actually settle and materialize on this chart. Right. So even though we see the selling happening now on these pairs, right? BTC, ETH. Um, when we go to the futures market, we'll see that there's no buying activity yet, right? And that's because there's a lag in the flow of capital. It's not instant, and I talk about this all the time. I always like to highlight this, and I think that this is going to be the perfect opportunity, especially since I'm streaming almost daily now, to go through the steps and show you guys day by day how this materializes in the market for real. Because it's very important that people understand this concept when they really want to try to time the market, because would be a good opportunity to try to time the market. Because now you're about to catch that dollar low, and you're going to know when that dollar top comes in, if it does. Right? Because the idea here is that you're about to see this dollar bottom happen. And this has to be predicated on people selling their risky assets first. Because otherwise, why would anybody need to park any money in dollars? Right? Does that make sense? Like, I hope that makes sense, because that train of logic, that logistics, that supply chain of how capital flows, that is exactly how it works. And it's imperative that you, the investor, understand that, because it's your money to invest accordingly at the end of the day, and you don't want to misallocate. And that's ultimately what it boils down to, because what if, we understand prices coming into support. We see all these things showing this, right? If we go to an 8-day chart, let's see what this looks like. Right? Even on the 8-day chart, we have some serious support right here in this area. Right? And right below there, we have this high volume node at what looks to be 100 and a quarter. So even there, you have all these areas of potential support. Right? So it makes sense to expect some type of activity here. And we're just being thoughtful. We're trying to be as professional as possible, in essence, by slowing down the activity and trying to assess what's happening within markets, right? Like, let's take a look at crude, for example. It's back above 75. I've talked to you guys about this one before. You guys know I'm biased long and playing that side of this market. As of now, today we hit 76.18. On our way to 77, right? It's been kind of like a slow drag up there. And I say slow because crude usually doesn't chop this much, but it's Christmas time and everybody isn't in the market. So it could be that, or it could be that the market really isn't bullish yet. And this is really just short covering activity, because it's like I said at the beginning of this analysis for this market, this This was a $10 drop, $11 drop, right? From 92 to 70, 68, right? So that's 14 bucks. And if you look at, let's see here, AMP futures margin. Let's look at the not the margin, the contract specs. Give me a second, just so you guys can get an idea of what I'm trying to say exactly. You look at crude oil, right? This is showing you the market, the symbol for the market, the exchange the market trades on, and the contract size. So it's $1,000 per point. That's what this means. So if you go back to looking at this chart, you'll see here that the tick is 0.001. That means $10 per tick, right? That's what this means. So if we go back to this crude chart, we'll see that this is a 2 decimal point number, right? So if we go 1,000 times 0.01, what do we get? 10. And that's where that $10 per tick comes from for 1,000 barrels. Right. So if you have $10 per tick and you make 100 ticks, which is $1, you just made $1,000. And that's how, if you're saying $14, it's $14,000 now. And this is per contract. Right. So this is why when I say it could be a very much short covering and choppiness still. Right. Because from the options perspective, let me check the prices just to give you guys my perspective. Yeah. While they're up, they're really only up meagerly, a tick or two, because the velocity and the change of the market is not sufficient enough to power a decent tail risk options trade. And what I mean is a right tail trade such that the performance of the trade is outsized. It's like on the right side of the distribution curve, all the way up here. Right? That's what I mean. So if the market doesn't move basically in line with that on its own chart, it's not going to do it on the options pricing. That's one way to look at it. Right? So if I got into this option down here, 73, 74 area, and it's only up here, right? It needs to at least get on the opposite side of where I got in from in order for it to actually make an impact on the price of the option, right? Because this is a derivatives contract, and those markets are really determined on the velocity, and that velocity is volatility. So that's very important to understand if you're going to dabble in that market. Anyway, but this is just also showing how capital is still trying to figure out what to do, right? Because if we're talking about a market where people just made 14,000 bones, they got to figure it out. Well, it was even more, 25,000, because it was 25 bucks. I'm here thinking it was 14 because I didn't remember. I had already done this. But yeah, let's say you got at least 20 out of this. I mean, that's totally plausible in this world. So, people got decisions to make, places to allocate capital to, and for now it looks like people are not messing with the dollar, but they're messing with other currencies. Now, if we look at Canadian dollar, which is a crude, excuse me, Canadian dollar is a commodity currency, and so is the New Zealand dollar. Because of New Zealand more because of milk, Canada because of crude. But they are commodity linked currencies. And typically, when crude goes up, they both go up for one reason or the other. Canadian dollar is more obvious than the New Zealand dollar. But that's what's happening. And in line with that, the euro is ripping and the Australia dollar is ripping. And I would surmise that this one is ripping too. But I don't really mess with this one because the ROI is pretty whack per tick. That's a whole nother combo. But yeah, this one's ripping too, just the pound. The yen is probably still ripping. Yeah, it's in line with the market structure because crude is ripping. So all these things are tied together because of the way capital flows. And as we can see, if you guys didn't remember my little spiel from last time with regards to the Swiss franc, positively structured Swiss franc is very negative for the economy because that means that the smart money is seeking the safe haven and is not trying to let people know. That's ultimately what it means. Because why would you be going in Swiss francs and not in dollars? See, so that's a major, major red flag for the broad economy. Let's check out the Nasdaq. Nasdaq is still over 17,000, and just like I marked the 4800 line for the S&P 500, I marked the 17,000 line for the Nasdaq. Similar idea, above and below that is bullish and bearish for now until the derivatives positioning changes and whatnot. But this market just keeps getting bought up. And the interesting thing is that when you look at the breadth of the market, let's pull that up. Yeah, it's trash. We'll go over these charts so you guys can understand exactly what's going on in the internals. So all of these are percentage of stocks above a specific moving average or day average, right? But it's just a moving average, and this is what it's called: percent of stocks above 5-day average, right? So 75% of the stocks are above their 5-day, 82% are above their 20-day, 84 above their 50, 100-day above their 74% above their 100-day moving average, and 65% above their 200-day. So that means that 35% of the market is below its 32-day moving average, respectively, right? Each market. Advanced decline, you got more advances than decliners, and this is like almost 3-to-1, almost, but it's really closer, 2.5-to-1 maybe. 13 divided by 6, 95. Yeah, 2.2-to-1. So for every 2.2 stocks that exist, one is being sold. That's what these two numbers are saying right now. Total advancing stocks, 35,000. I forget what the overall number is. Why don't I have declining? No, it's not the one I want. Total. Yeah, I think this is it. ADVT, total decline. I'm not sure if this is this one, but let's see. Total advancing stocks, total declining stocks. Yeah, that's the one I want. Yeah, so you guys can see more advancing and declining. Alrighty. So the market is it's floaty right now, right? A lot of stocks are up. Big narrative, however, floating around is that only the 7 mega stocks are really moving the needle. But when you look under the hood, a lot of stocks are up. At least 65% of the stocks, and this is all stocks. This isn't just some stocks. This is for all. At least it should be. Let's make sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is for all the stocks. Because why would I not? Yeah, this got to be for all the stocks. So yeah, so the market is relatively robust from that standpoint. hard to hate on it. But good to keep an eye on these types of indicators just to understand what's happening under the hood, because things change on the drop of a dime around here. Just like this crude market, now you got it down almost a buck from the high, right? And people thought they were crushing it, and they did. It went from 72 to 76. It's almost a $4 move, so that's 4K. But if you didn't get out, doesn't matter, especially if you don't plan to hold it overnight. So yeah, so when we sit here and look at all these markets and how they just keep doing their thing, irrespective of what's happening in the real world, you got to understand that that's the trap, right? This is how people think that there's nothing wrong outside because they might be benefiting, or it might not be obvious because they're just looking at this screen. Everything is up. Everything is good. Fuck. The markets are making new highs right now, baby. Fuck is you saying? You know what I mean? And that's just now how it works sometimes. This is just like painting a mural in the hood. The hood's still fucked up, but it's pretty. Not doing much for the hood, though. Right? And that's just how the cookie crumbles. A lot of people are content with whatever they think is okay, not understanding the lack of self-respect and all the other things that go into you accepting what's substandard or what should be substandard, especially when you're trying to level up, right? You can't level up if you're treating yourself like a clown. So these are things you really, really got to wrap your head around. And we do it in ways that we don't even want to, not realizing that we're doing it. And man, there's times when you got to really sit down and figure out when you're wrong. Even when things look right, you could be wrong. And that's the whole mind fuck of everything right there. You always have to be learning, man. Everything is fleeting because there's always more information out there that you don't know. So it's really on you. I was of the mind frame, fundamentally speaking, that equities cannot continue to go up like this. And I understand that they're not going to stop going up now because of how the system is structured. And look, we're making new highs to the point that we're now encroaching on old highs from previous regions. Old bull market. I mean, this is major. We're breaching yesterday's highs and making new highs today. So what stops this train? I mean, I was such a bear. And that bearishness is exactly the problem. Everything is so messed up that the dollar continues to permeate. And the system is so jacked up that it has to. It's literally like a junkie. The financial system will fall apart if the dollars don't continue to circulate. And if they start disappearing, prices will start flying even higher. Because then that implies a shortage of dollars. Imagine that. How can there be a shortage? Doesn't even make sense. But it's because everybody ain't got dollars. And businesses operate on credit. And this is why you have to take power into your hands with education. Understanding what crypto is, understanding how to operate crypto properly, even if you have a MetaMask wallet, what they can actually do, what they can't do. These are things that are important. Making sure that your points of error are minimized. You don't have all these external links from your wallet to you. Trezor and all that. I don't use any of that stuff. I don't use Trezor. I don't use anything. I keep it simple. And I understand what they can and can't do, no matter what they say in their terms of service. Because there's certain things they just can't do with their tech. And that's what I'm talking about. And you got to learn that. You got to put in the work, folks. Stop looking for people to save you. The future is here. And there's some things that just can't be shared publicly. So start doing your due diligence and stop waiting on others to save you, because that day is gone. 2022 changed it all. 2021 changed it all. 2020 changed it all. So things change fast out here. You got to know what's true. You got to know what makes sense, because all we're going to find is lies in most instances when they get presented to us. And you have to know how to decipher the real from the, vomity stuff. The stuff that's no bueno. The stuff that you can control as long as you understand that you cannot manufacture consent or let anybody manufacture consent for you. That is so critical in this new world that we live in. So critical. Because complying with a death trap is easy now. You don't even got to know you're doing it. I mean, that's what we see a lot of the time when it came to this Rona stuff. People were just complying for no reason. They weren't thinking anything through. I want to travel. I want to this, da 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 da. Like, what do you mean? You can already do that. Nobody was stopping anybody from doing anything. That was all lies that was being told on media. Plenty of people were traveling. Plenty of people were doing all types of stuff. Just depending where you were going and how serious they were. For example, during that point, I think it was 2021, I went to the UK. And when I landed, they tell you got to do all kinds of shit over here. When I landed, I just went through customs, and that was that. I went right to where the fuck I was going. Simple. No fuss, no muss. All that shit was happening here. And whoever wanted to participate in it, basically. But it was never real. And that shit is hard for people to wrap their head around. They're like, what do you mean? Because all they do is watch TV. They don't know that shit is fake. You got to know that shit is fake. They're not out there to tell you nothing that's beneficial to you. They're out there to play you. So. Oh, man, this should be great. This should be great. There should be a lot of people crying on Twitter right now, then. Oh, man, that's funny as shit. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Oh, that's so funny. Thanks for sharing, Cryptomatic. That's hilarious. Hey, you want to jump on, bro? You want to jump on? It's just funny, man. Now, you know what? Let me wrap this shit up. It's almost an hour. We'll do one another time. But yeah, guys, just understand what crypto's about. Understand it literally means you and the code. Nothing else. If you're doing anything other than you and the code, you need to be careful. You need to be very, very careful. Because that's not crypto. That's something else. I don't know what it is, but it ain't crypto. All right. Remember, never share or expose your seed phrase or private keys. And do not click on any random links. And good reads are located at wellsonly.substack.com. All that is on that rolling scroller at the bottom, rolling ticker at the bottom, folks. Thank you for tuning in as always. Remember to step yourself up, man. Anything else is uncivilized. Peace. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's the secret. The Godwell told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all deep.